See, it seems to me, Steve, that what you're talking about, and this appeals to me in no uncertain terms, or what you're talking about seems to be a middle ground between
Mm.
what we commonly imagine economics is and what philosophy actually is. Right? You seem to be
Yeah.
riding right down the middle of those two concepts. So I'm
Right.
wondering if you could address that in some way. And I'd like to hear what Austrians think of assumptions simply. Right? We talked
Yeah.
about assumptions a bit, and
Yeah.
so what's the Austrian take on that, and then the broader question, if you could.
Yeah. So I'll go with the assumptions first. You can't do social science without making assumptions, right? Without holding some things constant anyway, right? If you want to call those assumptions, call them assumptions. And I think the question then becomes, what are you holding constant, and what assumptions are you making? And how much violence do they do to really understanding the world that we want to understand? And what's the goal, right? If the goal, I mean, sort of the classic Friedman version of this in economics is, if the goal is prediction, right? We want to be able to predict and predict in some pinpoint way, and it doesn't matter what we assume as long as the thing generates good predictions. Okay, then that's one vision of science, right? But another vision of science, this sort of leads into the broader question, is to say, no, it's not about those kind of exact predictions, but perhaps about understanding the world and understanding how institutions emerge, how progress takes place, how Paris gets fed, all the interesting bigger questions. And I think Austrians, it's true that Austrians have always been interested in those broader questions. It's funny, I mean, as an undergraduate, I was a double major in econ and philosophy, right? So there you go. Okay, I mean, I'm particularly perhaps suited to this, but I do think that Austrian. When you start to look at things the way Austrians do, you're inevitably drawn into thinking about philosophical questions, about questions of political science, about sociology, even psychology. I mean, all over. I could keep going all over the place. And if you look at the sort of well-known Austrian economists, particularly of the 20th century, but even the founders, they were well read. I mean, we think the 20th century Mises and Hayek were broad men of letters, as we used to call them, and their work was always suffused with putting economics in a broader perspective. And I think that's really important, both sort of broader intellectual perspective, but understanding the role of economics in sort of a liberal society, and why is economics important for the kind of world we want to live in.